Okay, thank you for joining us. And this is Ed Solly with the Vet Voice, the media wing of VFAF, Veterans for America First. I have joining me contributor of to the channel, Mark LaJoy, and I also have a Congressional District 4 candidate, Alek Skarlatos. He is running in Oregon, and we're going to ask him some questions about things he stands for and his experiences out in the military world and what he's trying to do to make a difference in Congress. Mark, why don't you go ahead and take over for me?
Hey, good morning, Alek. How are you doing this morning?
Well, great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you're a very special guest, and we wanted to come on just get your side, of you being a candidate running for the congressional district that you're running for in Oregon. Spent a little bit of time up that way myself. I was stationed in Fort Lewis. As you can tell behind me, I'm a vet, special operations guy, so we may have crossed paths somewhere down the line, but it's good to have you on this morning. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what congressional district you're running for.
Well, I'm running in Oregon's 4th Congressional District, which is kind of Western Oregon, about 70% of the Oregon coast. I was in the Oregon Army National Guard Infantry. I did a 9-month deployment to Afghanistan. After the Afghanistan deployment, me and my 2 friends helped stop a terrorist attack on a train to Paris back in 2015. After that, I attended air assault school and sniper school before getting out in 2017 and got interested in politics starting about 2018. And I've more or less been doing politics ever since. And this is my second run for the 4th Congressional District. And now it's an open seat in a D+4 district. So we have a great opportunity to flip this seat in a year like this.
So how many years did you spend in the Oregon National Guard?
5.
5. You're still not, you're not in now, you're out, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like your career kind of parallels mine. I did the same thing. I went into the Alabama National Guard. I was the interim sergeant major for the 20th Special Forces Group, and so got a little bit of military background. I know where you went through. I was an infantry guy myself, so that's awesome. So, in your early life, where'd you grow up? Where'd you come from?
I guess I was born in the San Francisco area, grew up in the Sacramento area, moved up to Oregon when I was about 15 or 16, finished high school in Roseburg, Oregon, where I still live. And shortly after that, joined the Army National Guard because I didn't know what I wanted to do in college.
Sounds a lot like what I had. You said you attended parochial school, so you went to a Catholic school? Is that what
No, it was like a private Christian school for a couple of years in Sacramento. That's kind of it was pretty influential in my life just because that's where I met the other 2 guys that I ended up stopping the terrorist attack with. And it was a big reason why I got kicked out of my mom's house, moved in with my dad, and then moved up to Oregon. So it was kind of a very influential time in my life.
So tell us about the big day. It was August 21st, 2015, right? Tell us what happened and what led up to it.
Well, basically, coming off the Afghanistan deployment, my friend Spencer was stationed in Portugal, and I was saying, hey, I want to do this European vacation. You're already in Europe, so it makes total sense. Let's meet up. And we were trying to find someone else to go with us, and he found Anthony. Anthony agreed to go with us. We've known him since we were both in middle school. I've known Spencer since I was like 5, growing up in Sacramento. We were neighbors. We all met up in Amsterdam after kind of doing our own thing for about a week or 2. Hung out in Amsterdam for about 3 or 4 days. A lot of kind of coincidences went into us being in that time and place. We debated staying in Amsterdam longer because we were having such a good time. We had debated, but eventually we just kind of said, we already bought the tickets. We'll just stick to the original plan. And we got on the train, helped an elderly British gentleman get on the train in a place where our seats were not for, and then ended up moving to first class where tickets were for because all the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And then on top of that, I traded Spencer's seats and I took the window seat. He took the aisle seat. We kind of settled in for about 2 or 3 hours, and Spencer and Anthony fell asleep. I was watching our trip on Google Maps. So we had just crossed the border into France. And then I heard a gunshot and breaking glass come from behind us, and turn around, and I saw a shirtless man with an AK-47. So I ducked behind the seat. Spencer ducks down next to me after he wakes up and realizes what's going on. Once he does that, I hit him on the shoulder and say something to the effect of "Let's go." Spencer immediately gets up and runs at the guy, and I kind of meant, like, "Let's go" when he gets a little bit closer, or "Let's go" maybe after he kills a few people and has to reload. But I just said "Let's go," and he immediately was gone. And so I didn't even realize that he was gone at first because of the tunnel vision from the adrenaline. I was kind of like peeking between the seats. And before I know it, Spencer crosses my path of vision on the way to the terrace. I'm like, oh, shoot, he went. So I got to follow him. Spencer tackles the terrorist. When I get there, he's trying to get the terrorist into a chokehold. I pick up the AK-47, try to shoot the terrorist with the AK-47. It's on safety. Before I can mess with it, the terrorist then pulls out a handgun to try to shoot Spencer in the head, who's behind him, choking him. I drop the AK-47, pry the handgun out of his hands, hit him in the face a few times with it. Then the terrorist pulls out a box cutter and starts cutting Spencer on the back of the neck. So Spencer kicks him off of him, says he's got a knife. At that point, Anthony had joined us as well. So all three of us were kind of punching him, kicking him, doing whatever we could do to not get stabbed or injured or whatever. Finally, Spencer and I kind of get control of him, and I'm kind of like holding his head against a table that's on the train. I still have the handgun, so I put the handgun to the back of his head and I say, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." He doesn't listen, of course, probably doesn't even speak English. So I pull the trigger, gun doesn't go off. Turns out it was empty. When I cycled it to load it again, I noticed that there's no magazine, nothing in the gun. So what had happened was, before we gotten involved, there were two passengers waiting to use the bathroom. The terrorist had gone into the bathroom to get all of his weapons ready. He was in there for about 15 minutes, and he was in there for so long. Two passengers waiting outside, and when he comes out, one passenger immediately realizes what's going on, starts grabbing the terrorist by the neck with the AK kind of pinned between their bodies. The other gentleman waiting to use the bathroom, his name was Mark. He goes to grab the AK-47 between two of them. A train employee breaks them up, thinking it was a regular fight. When he does that, he of course sees the AK-47, realizes it's not a fight. He starts running to the front of the train. The gentleman Mark ended up getting the AK-47 and followed him to the front of the train. Damien, the other guy, ran to the back of the train. After the terrorist's AK got taken, he pulled the handgun out of his waistband. When he did that, he gripped it too high, accidentally dropping the magazine. The one round that was in the chamber, he fired, hitting Mark in the neck, and that was the gunshot and breaking glass that we heard. So at this point, handgun was empty, so I throw it. We're getting pretty frustrated. Spencer puts him in another chokehold on the opposite side of the aisle than we started. And then I picked the AK-47 back up off the floor and just started hitting the terrorist in the head with the muzzle of the AK-47. Finally, his arms kind of go limp and he stops fighting back. And then I watch him go unconscious from Spencer's chokehold. Spencer was pretty upset with the guy, so he was continuing to choke him, even though he was unconscious. He wanted to kill him. And
that adrenaline was kicking in, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he probably would have, but I look up and I see a gentleman trying to stand up in the middle of the aisle with blood squirting out of his neck, and that was Mark. And Spencer was an EMT in the Air Force, so I said, "Hey, Spencer, go get that guy." And so Spencer then drops the terrorist on the ground, crawls over, puts two fingers in Mark's neck wound, stops the bleeding. He'd been hitting the carotid artery, so he was bleeding pretty profusely. I took the AK-47. A British gentleman offered to watch the terrorist, and so I said, whatever, stand on his neck or something if he starts to wake up. And I took the AK-47, took it off safety. I go to cycle it, thinking that it's not loaded, because no one was shot with it. And when I did that, a round ejected from the chamber. I'm like, that's unusual. This round landed on the seat right next to me, and I could tell there was a dent in the back of the primer. And I pick it up, and sure enough, it wasn't a light strike or anything like that. There's a full-on dent in the back of this bullet. It just didn't go off. Just he was using old Russian ammo that was bad. But We'd obviously gotten very lucky there as well. So I made some remark to that effect, and then took the AK-47 just in case there were any other terrorists or wounded passengers, and checked the rest of the train. Came back, cleared all the weapons, helped Spencer with Mark's medical care. Looked for other injuries and things like that while Spencer was holding his neck. And I honestly didn't think he was going to make it because he lost a tremendous amount of blood. But we kind of handled the situation for another 20 minutes or so until we got to the train station. Then police and EMTs came on board, and me and Anthony went to the police station to get questioned. Spencer and Mark went to the hospital to get their wounds taken care of. And pretty much the rest is history.
As you can see, Ed, Alek covered it just like he would if we were asking him to debrief a military operation. So I seen some of the qualities, the same thing that he learned in the infantry, because I was a drill sergeant too. He covered everything just by the beginning to the end of it. So well, that's amazing. It's an amazing story. Everything that kind of could have gone wrong went wrong that day, in the beginning of it. But faithfully, everybody survived, and nobody died as a result of it. Well, that's amazing. You did get awarded some special medals for that, did you not?
Yeah, I got let me see, most of them are right here. I think I got
Yeah, I can see them.
French Legion of Honor, which is like becoming a knight in France, which is very cool.
Yeah.
They also gave us dual citizenship. The Oregon Distinguished Service Medal. I'm not sure what the qualifications are of that. Belgian Civic Service Medal, Army Soldiers Medal, and yeah, that's about it.
There should be
That's
a medal
awesome.
for beating a terrorist with his own gun.
Yeah,
There should
with
be
his
a
own-
special medal that you took
Exactly.
his weapon and knocked him unconscious with his own gun. I've obviously not in the military, never been in combat. I gotta imagine that's the worst way to get knocked unconscious, with your own gun. After you've gone through 3 different weapons and then they get used against you.
Well, it was
But
actually
he's
pretty
gonna-
interesting. He was actually an ISIS terrorist, part of the same terror cell that did the Brussels airport bombing and the Bataclan shooting, which were both very successful. And the interesting thing was he had actually gone back to Syria for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks of training before the terrorist attack. So he had actually he should have known what he was doing, basically, but we got very lucky in a lot of ways. I mean, from the magazine dropping out of the handgun to the AK-47 having a bad primer. I mean, a lot of things went our way that probably shouldn't have. And even, of course, even trying to kill the terrorist with his own weapons, a lot of things didn't go our way. So I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to. I mean, with an incident like that happening and no one losing their life, not even the terrorist, I mean, it's pretty incredible when you think about the odds of that.
Yeah, a miracle for sure.
So tell me, how was it to work with Clint Eastwood? He's a big fan of mine. Always has been a big fan of mine. I'm just curious on your perception.
Oh no, yeah, he's fantastic. He's absolutely as cool as you would think he is. Uh, just very laid back, very personable. He was like 88 when we were filming the movies, so now he's, I think, in his early 90s, but just a very cool guy. Kind of like his character in Gran Torino, if you've seen that.
Oh, I did.
But just nicer in real life.
Nice in real life.
Yeah.
So Alek,
But-
let me bring this into kind of the current day with some of the bills going on. Sorry, Mark, to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
So one of the questions I have, obviously, last week President Biden announced the $500 billion giveaway for student loans. And my first reaction, I obviously everyone's first reaction is, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? But I saw it as the biggest insult to veterans who, a lot of people, I have friends that join the military to get to go to school for the education purposes that they get afterwards. And now we're giving out, student loan forgiveness to people who took basket weaving and didn't understand that that wasn't going to be a good career choice. The same that we give veterans who've served overseas and served the country. So they're getting the same opportunities now. So tell me how you feel about that, and what would you do as a member of Congress with that?
I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous on multiple levels. Of course, Actually, I think I saw a tweet from Joey Jones, who's the Fox News host, who's missing both of his legs. I think he was Marine Corps EOD. Um, and he basically said something to the effect of, I lost both my legs for free college tuition. What an idiot I am, you know? And
Right.
I think there's a lot of people that have that same sentiment because a lot of us did join the military, at least in part, for the free college benefits. Now they're just giving them away. I mean, if anything, I think we should forgive loans of small business owners or veteran small business owners that have actually, who this country actually owes something to, and who have actually maybe had a difficult time under COVID and starting a small business in the last few years. But instead, we give it to, I mean, I don't want to say people that are undeserving, but people that just got in too deep with their college loans or don't want to pay them back. I mean, most of these people have not been paying down the debt on their student loans since COVID because they don't have to. And now they're getting $10,000 to $20,000 of their loan paid down for free by the rest of the taxpayers who did not agree to take that loan. I mean, when you fail in this country, it's because you fail. If you start a business and fail, you don't expect the rest of the country to bail you out.
Right.
That's exactly what's happening here, and it's just not fair. Working class people are bailing out people with white collar jobs that got expensive degrees that don't want to pay them down. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, and frankly, the people that we should be mad at is these overnight colleges that once the federal government started guaranteeing these loans that popped up out of nowhere, offering degrees to do nothing and charging $30,000 a semester to do it. I'm here in Georgia. I went to Georgia Tech. And when I was there, I took out student loans, but I knew I was at a good college, getting a good education, and I'd be able to pay them back. And I did. My wife and I worked hard to pay them off. We lived like misers for the first 5 years of our marriage because we hated carrying debt. But I have friends that went to, these schools that opened for 4 years and then were closed, and their degrees are, in nothing. Their degrees are absolutely worthless, and they've still been carrying 50, 60, $70,000 in loans. It's those kind of programs that really people should be mad at. Uh, Obviously there needs to be some self-ownership. People that took out these loans, you need to know, all right, this school didn't exist 6 years ago. Maybe this isn't worth 100 grand. Uh, but
Or you're paying a bunch of money for a degree that's not going to make very much money. Like you might not be able to pay down that loan for a while. I
yeah,
mean, there are a lot of things that go into it. I'm sure the colleges are just as guilty, but at the end of the day, they should be between the colleges and the people that took out the loans. It shouldn't be on the taxpayer.
right. If the government would stop backing these loans, we would have never been in this problem to begin with. And now the government comes in to teach people that you always get bailed out. I don't see how that works.
Instead of course, solving the problem of colleges ripping off students or having predatory loans, they didn't solve the problem. This could still happen all over again in a couple of years. Instead, they're just paying down the debts of a lot of people and basically just rewarding the colleges that put a lot of these people in that position in the first place, and basically just buying votes just in time for a midterm.
Mark and I were talking about this before. I actually think this gets halted pretty quickly. I've read the Constitution. I haven't seen the president can sign away $500 billion in personal debt clause yet. Maybe I've misinterpreted something, but I feel like that's something that's going to get challenged. Another big bill that just went through is this burn pit bill. Obviously the left elected to attach $500 billion, and it seems to be their magic number, and extra spending. Tell me how that strikes you. I know Mark and I have talked about this a lot, but tell me your thoughts on that. And Mark can chime in there too.
I
Yep.
mean, yeah, I think it's a little offensive when people use the good parts of a bill, in this case, healthcare for global war on terror veterans, as a hostage so that they can put all their other pet projects into a bill because the Republicans better not vote against it or they hate veterans. I mean, to be fair, though, this is probably one of the single biggest problems in Washington, D.C., is not passing standalone bills. Both Republicans and Democrats will take the good parts of a bill that both parties agree on and want to see passed and attach hundreds of billions of dollars of unrelated spending to the bill. I mean, we just saw this done with the transportation bill too. It was like $1.3 trillion. I think only about 3 or 400 billion was actually for transportation. And it's like, what are we spending all this money on when we have things that actually do need to happen? We do need our roads and bridges to get taken care of. We do need to pay for our veterans' health care when they got sick serving this country. But instead, we're spending it on all this other stupid stuff like bailing out people's student loans and all these other pet projects we really don't even know about. I mean, and then we wonder why the national debt's $30 trillion. And we wonder
Well,
why inflation is about 10%. I mean, it's insane.
Alec, you have a good opportunity as a young, former Army veteran, and of course I'm an old dried up Army veteran of 41 years. So you have a chance to get out there and do something energetic. And a lot of people in your age bracket that get into Congress, a lot of things happen. I'm supporting Chris West here in the second district of which I was going to run for initially. And Chris West is a great guy, super guy. He's running against a 3-decade Democrat here that has done nothing for the farmers down there. You have an opportunity to get up there and do some really good things as a young, energetic congressman. The thing that I want to ask you about is a lot of those younger congressional people get up there and then they get turned around by the seniors up there, the veteran congressmen and senators up there, and they're basically telling them, say, hey, look, this is I understand what you represent, but this is the way we do things here. What are you going to do differently to make sure you're not influenced by that?
Well, I guess the first thing is I love spending time in Oregon. I'm from Oregon. I do not plan on being in DC long term. I do not like DC. I will remain connected to the people that I represent. And also, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for myself, for my own personal benefit. I'm doing this for the people of my district. That's the reason I got into politics, was seeing how broke this district is. We have the worst economy in Oregon. There's a lot of things that need to happen. But at the end of the day, that's just not why I'm doing this. I do not like DC. I don't like politics. I don't like the establishment in DC. So I guess that's my best answer.
So what separates you from your opponent?
Well, a lot of things. My opponent doesn't believe in new fossil fuels, which, considering that gas is, $5 a gallon out here, that's pretty shocking, because I think most people would love to see more oil being drilled here domestically. She also believes in tax increases for people making as low as $31,000. She believes in taxing hospitals. There's a lot of things that she's voted for, even on the state legislature when she was in, that are absolutely shocking. She helped push through an agriculture overtime bill, which absolutely decimated our farmers. She's just anti-business. She's very typical for the direction that Oregon is going right now, as being the next California. And I don't want to see that. I think we need balance in Oregon. I think we need balance in Washington, D.C. I think both parties need to be represented. At the end of the day, again, though, I'm representing a district in Oregon. And even though Oregon is a Democrat-leaning state, and this is a Democrat-leaning district, I think most people think we've gone too far, and they want to see some balance brought back to Washington, and that's what I think I would represent. Just some common sense. I'm fairly Republican, but this is not a Republican-leaning district, so there's some things that the district and I are not necessarily going to agree on. So that's why I would like to work towards some big picture things that most people agree on, like term limits, like standalone bills, improving the economy of the 4th Congressional District, improving healthcare access, all these things that are very broad, big picture things, but that's what everyone here agrees on. I don't want to get too down in the weeds in a specific issue, because half the district's going to hate me for it, half the district's going to love me for it. I want to do things that everyone is going to appreciate.
Yeah, you represent the 100% of the 4th district, not just the people that vote red. And that's we don't hear that enough anymore. Honestly, that's something that just I don't know when it went away. I don't know when that faded, but it's a bit refreshing to hear when given the opportunity. Your concern is you want to represent everybody, not take a chance to stab at half your district. Very, very encouraging. So, Alec, tell the people how they can support you and where they can find more information about you and donate to your campaign.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, the website is Alek for Oregon, ALEKFOR Oregon.com. We also have a Facebook page and all that, and you can email us at the website if you want to contact us or just send us a message on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate
you.
it. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future, Alec. Good luck in your race. I think it's going to be a tight one, but I think you can squeeze it out.
It definitely will be close. I appreciate the help.
Good
Awesome.
luck, Alec, and
Thank you.
Godspeed.
Thank you.